Hello, Pally people. Aaron Walker, winemaker for Pally Wine Company, and I'm back with our current set of wines for this week. We have all four of these wines available in all of our tasting rooms. Hopefully you've been following along and already discovered that you can grab these wines as a flight to go from our local tasting rooms, any of the tasting rooms, and you can taste along with those to-go flights at home or wherever you like, and follow along with me with these videos. So each week we're putting out a new flight and a different video to accompany those four wines on the flight. The flights can be, like I said, served as small to-go portions, or you could purchase an entire bottle of each wine and taste along with me at home with some other wine enthusiasts. Today we are featuring two wines from our Tower 15 collection, one wine from our neighborhood winery brand, and lastly our flagship brand, Pally Wine Company. So we're going to start with 2017 White Cap, which is a Tower 15 wine, at least back in 2017. It's a white Rhone style blend. 2019 Sunset, which is bottled under our neighborhood winery label these days, and it's a dry rosé, also done with Rhone grapes. 2018 Cargasacchi Vineyard Pinot Noir. This is from a very small, highly esteemed vineyard in Santa Rita Hills, so very close to where I'm standing. And lastly, Tower 15 Petite Syrah 2018 vintage. And we're going to taste them in that order. So we'll get started with the White Cap 2017. So Tower 15, which is named after Lifeguard Tower 15 at Will Rogers State Beach in Pacific Palisades area. So Tower 15 was a spinoff from the Pally Wine Company brand, Pacific Palisades, if you're not aware or familiar with our brand and naming. White Cap, obviously playing with the theme of the ocean and the beach. And under this Tower 15 label, we're producing primarily Rhone and Bordeaux varieties, although we do branch out into some other varieties. But this is one of our more well-known blends, certainly our most well-known white blend under this label that we put out each year, usually about 300 cases a year. And it's a blend of 4 different grapes, all considered white Rhone grapes, so they're native to the Rhone region of France, although these grapes are grown locally at vineyards throughout the area, the Central Coast area, I should say. These grapes come from multiple vineyards in both Santa Barbara County and San Luis Obispo County. So we're talking Grenache Blanc as the base of this wine. The Grenache Blanc comes from 2 different vineyards. We have Marsanne and Roussanne, which come from one vineyard. They both come from the same vineyard in Santa Barbara County. And then lastly is some Viognier, which also is a Santa Barbara County sourced vineyard. So we're pulling these grapes in from multiple different vineyards, harvesting individually, fermenting in individual lots, barrel aging separately, and then after about 3 or 4 months of aging, the wines are then assembled into the blend. We'll go through and taste through all the barrels and then assemble the wine into what we think is the best version of White Cap. And so it's primarily, not primarily, but it's based heavily on Grenache Blanc. About 50% of the wine is Grenache Blanc, and then the balance is going to be that Roussanne, Marsanne, and Viognier. No new oak on this. We use all neutral oak for aging and fermentation, and we use some stainless steel as well, but there's no new oak barrels, so you're not going to get any kind of oaky flavors in this wine. Especially the Marsanne and Roussanne, even the Viognier, tend to have a lot of weight and body as it is, so we don't need to add a lot of oak component into this type of wine. It's got some nice, really nice tropical and stone fruits, as well as a bit of herbaceousness and floral qualities. There's some bright flowers, jasmine and lavender, those types of floral notes. Nice mouthfeel, silky and smooth, but also with a tart acidity that runs right through it and on the finish. Picking up a little bit of pie crust, buttery bread, that kind of quality, along with that acidity and and more of those stone fruits like the apricot and peach. Great wine to pair with food and cheese and meat platters, those charcuterie plates. This wine goes wonderfully with that type of stuff. Maybe you know, roasted chicken, seafood dishes, whitefish. Just a very nice alternative to Chardonnay. It's not oaky and buttery like some Chardonnays tend to be, but it is full-bodied and does have nice weight in the mouth because of the grapes that are being used in this. So that is Whitecap 2017. Next, we're going to move on to Sunset. This is the 2019 vintage of Sunset. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a dry rosé. And it's made also from grapes native to the Rhone Valley of France. But this time we're using red grapes to achieve a rosé color. And the way we do that is by crushing up the grapes and letting the skins sit in contact with the juice for usually a couple hours. And then the juice starts to soak up the color from the skins as well as some flavor and tannin. And then we press all that off, and at that point we have pink colored juice, and we use that and ferment the juice into this lovely rosé. So these grapes are harvested at lower bricks, and this is a wine where we're intentionally growing these grapes or harvesting these grapes to become a rosé. And so there's a couple different ways to make rosé. In this version, we are doing whole cluster pressing of the rosé. So this is the basis. The majority of this wine is Grenache and Mourvedre, about 45%, maybe even a little more, each of those two grapes. And then the balance, which is usually 5% or in that range, 5 to 8%, is Syrah. And so these grapes are all pressed off and fermented in stainless and neutral oak barrels only. We're not using any new oak again. Fermenting it completely dry, so it's not sweet. It's not a sweet style rosé. And it's got those really bright, light red fruit notes. It's got, again, floral qualities. This is more like rose petals. Let's see what else is going on in here. Strawberries, raspberries. Touch of like cotton candy. Maybe it's the color that's making me think of like pink cotton candy, but on the palate, it's definitely dry, great acidity. Those light fruit flavors show through beautifully. This is an amazing wine to drink. Get it nice and cold on a hot summer day or hot any season day. But don't limit yourself just to the warm months with rosé. We drink this year round at our house. This is a great wine for just easy drinking and doesn't need to be paired with food, although it's got the acidity and it's not sweet, that you definitely could drink this with a meal. Maybe go with a salad with some roasted peaches in the salad and some grilled chicken, something along those lines. All right, moving on. We've got a very special wine. This is from bottled under Pally Wine Company. It's a single vineyard Pinot Noir, one of our smallest production wines that we make every year. This is from Cargasacchi Vineyard in Santa Rita Hills, not very far from where I'm standing here in Lompoc at our tasting room in the Wine Ghetto. This is a guy named Peter Cargasacchi. He and his brother Mark have been farming this vineyard for many years. This was a vineyard that was very special for me to start working with in 2009. Previous to that, we were getting grapes from Peter's and Mark's other vineyard called the Halama Vineyard. However, that is not in Santa Rita Hills. This vineyard is. So this is the more premier of the two vineyards that they farm. This is the 2018, and it's the very last vintage that we foresee, at least for the time being, of getting these grapes. So we made a single vineyard wine off this vineyard every year starting in 2009 up until this last vintage, 2018. Reason we're no longer making this wine is that Peter and Mark are no longer farming the vineyard, and we'll see what happens in the future. Hopefully they bring it back to life because it's a very special vineyard. It's one that to me stood out and represented the Santa Rita Hills as an iconic vineyard producing some fabulous wines going back into the early 2000s. What's unique about this wine, the wine that we make from this vineyard, especially in more recent years, is that it is lighter in style, not as big and rich and fruit forward as a lot of our other Pinot Noirs that we produce from Santa Rita Hills. This tends to be earthier, more savory, almost more of an old world style wine. Lastly, we get less than 1 ton of these grapes each year, and so that's limiting our production on this to usually about 2 barrels, which was the case here in 2018. And so that means we're only bottling around 50 cases or so a year. So it's very, very limited in production and also in distribution. We don't sell this through distribution. It's just sold directly to our wine club members and through our tasting rooms. Peppery, you get a lot of peppercorn. Little roasted meat or toasty campfire in the background, in a good way, not in an off-putting way at all. That's coming from the barrels. We use 1 brand new barrel and 1 neutral or used barrel. And so you blend those 2 together, it's basically a 50% new French oak, aged for about 18 months. Very light red fruits, but a lot of acidity, so that you don't get the impression that they're sweet red fruits. They're more softer, not highly ripe or baked types of red fruits, if that makes sense. More like fresh cherries and fresh strawberries rather than like baked cherries or baked strawberries. Yeah, this interesting little wine. It screams for some food. Trying to think what would go well with this. This would be, maybe a roasted duck entree with a cherry gastrique, like a cherry sauce, something with a little acidity to it. Herb lamb, that kind of dish. This is a wine that you have to really kind of take your time on and think about it. There's so many flavors, and it's a very nuanced wine, as any good Pinot Noir should be. And so it's been a great run. We've had a wonderful time making the wines off this vineyard. We hope to continue in the near future, but for now, this is the very last vintage, 2018, so please enjoy it. The last wine today, and I'm gonna finish with something that's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum from the Pinot Noir, is the Petite Sirah from Tower 15 Wines. So this is a wine that we've been producing for many years now off the same vineyard, and this is a vineyard up in Paso Robles. So this is actually a single vineyard bottling, and it comes from a vineyard in the very north part of the Paso Robles AVA, from Rabbit Ridge Vineyards, which many of you may know. Rabbit Ridge, the wine label, which used to be very heavily produced, thousands and thousands of cases a year. I don't believe they're really producing much of that wine anymore, but this is from the owner of that vineyard, that winery. This is from his vineyard called Texas Road Vineyard in San Marcos area of Paso Robles, and this is a really nice representation of Petite Sirah from Paso Robles. Paso Robles being much warmer climate, and compared to like Santa Rita Hills where we are here, where Pinot Noir grows, Petite Sirah prefers much warmer climate to grow in. If grown in the right place, it'll get nice and ripe. You'll get big, rich fruit flavors. This wine's no exception. It's got blueberry, blackberry, a little chocolate, great lush tannins, provides a very nice mouthfeel, really fills out on the palate. And then there's a long lingering finish, some blackberries and some black tea. We use American and French oak in the aging of this wine, and so you get some different flavors from each. The American oak tends to add a little more sweet notes, sweet flavors like coconut and vanilla bean. French oak tends to be a little bit more savory, but both provide a toasty kind of quality to the wine. And the wine's aged for about 16 months or so prior to bottling. This would go well with barbecue, roasted meats, pizza dishes, you name it. It drinks wonderfully on its own too. So that's going to do it for this week. Thank you all for joining us. Miss you all, love you all. Pally for the people.